show is sponsored by Hivemind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the Hivemind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
All right. Good afternoon, folks. It is the middle of the day again on a Wednesday, and we're back here with Wednesday's lunchtime learning with Real Life Real Estate Investing, where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. I'm your host, Glenn Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dial Out of a Dime. And of course, I have another special guest that's going to be sharing with us some phenomenal information. As you know, I like to always bring on people that can add value and help us understand some of the things that are most proficient in what we do in real estate investing. All right, again, thank you all for joining us. Today I have a special guest, Mr. Daniel Martinez, who's going to be sharing with us some amazing information. For those of you that have been doing real estate or looking to get into doing real estate, you know how important it is to be organized and have a system and things like that. Mr. Daniel Martinez is going to talk to us about CRMs and how to use them and how beneficial they are to what we do. And he's also going to give us a special bonus and talk about land investing, which I know a lot of people are getting into now. So without further ado, we're going to bring up Mr. Martinez. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing amazing. Happy to be here.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And, you know, we of course, when you do our research and things like that, we know that you've done some amazing things. But I want to give you an opportunity to share with the folks who you are, and then we'll dive right into what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. So my name is Daniel Martinez. I host a podcast. I do real estate. I do land. I do software. I do data company. I'm all over like the real estate side of things, but I wasn't always this. I used to be a truck driver, blue collar. I used to drive 18-wheelers down the road, and actually started my first trucking company and then pivoted into real estate after that. And I've been downshore for 5 years and just kind of started the CRM. It was a lot of people ask, like, you have to have like your personal why, but you also need a business why of why you like doing what you do. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't know what that was till I started Hivemind. Long story short, we've now had 14 clients at 6-figure months. So it's like, if I can hit 1, if I can hit 10, I can hit 1,000. So we're just trying to help more people hit 6-figure months in the business and accelerate their business to the next level.
Great stuff. Now, of course, I know there's somebody that's going to watch this and say, help clients hit 6-figure months. How? How does that happen? I mean, is it related to the CRM? How do you help people do that?
It's one of those things where like it's related to the CRM, and that's what it is. A CRM is a customer relations management tool. It helps you accelerate your business. So I have clients that were doing spreadsheets and paper before that was their CRM. Write down, keeping track, follow up with this person 30 days from now, and then they forget and not do it. And it's one of those things where like you lose a lot of efficiency when you're not systematized. So our clients they understand that they need a CRM. They'll come in and be like, okay, I know I need this tool. Let me learn how to use it, and let me amplify my work hours. So my whole thing is automation before delegation, because if you automate first, you might not have to delegate it at all. So I have people come in like, oh, I have a VA doing this, and this. I'm like, well, they don't have to do that anymore because you can automate that 100%, and it's just going to work. So it's one of those things where like if you automate first, you can really amplify your time, your VA's time, and you can take your business to the next level by being more efficient, doing more marketing, doing follow-ups, even the keyword responses, so you can actually reply to messages effectively without having to do it yourself.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. Now, now automation before delegation. Now, most of us know that getting into the business of real estate, one of the biggest things is having a team. You can be more efficient when you have a team. Now, because of course, it's hard to do most of what we do by yourself. And
Correct.
the delegation part is what many of us strive to do, is have a team to delegate those things to. How do we incorporate automation before delegation? How does that work?
It's one of those things where like I would have you can assign a VA to follow up with everybody. That's a full-time job in most real estate business. That's a full-time job.
Mhm.
With our system, you can literally set up follow up with every person that's replied positively every 30 to 45 days. Boom, done. And it just
Mm.
works. So it's one of those things where like that's a full-time position, or you would have somebody follow up with everybody every 30 to 45 days if they were someone interested. It's just done. That's out the window. So like there's simple tasks like that you don't think about, that is really taking up a lot of your VA's hours, taking up your hours, and it's just taking up unneeded space in your business that can make you more efficient and effective.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And in Hivemind, right? That's the CRM we're talking about, right?
Right.
So there is a apparatus, I imagine, that allows a person that needs to be followed up with in a certain amount of time. It allows them to get a maybe what is an automated message or automated email or text message or something like that communicates to the people that they're trying to follow up with.
All the above. So one of the cool things about our system is that most systems out there, or most things out there, softwares only do one thing. They might just do call
Mhm.
back and call forwarding. They might just do texting. They might just do websites. They might just do forums. They might just do email marketing. So like it's really hard to combine and communicate because they don't communicate with each other. So you kind of work
Mm.
your list through texting, you kind of work your list through the dialer, you kind of work your list through the email platform. If you're even doing that at all, like
Mhm.
most people
Mhm.
aren't even doing all those things. So if the system can communicate, you can set up like a specific campaign that actually works and talks to each other. So this is a Max Maxwell's thing. You can look it up. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called the lead conveyor belt. Lead
Mm.
conveyor belt
Yes.
is to put your list through the cheapest form of marketing first to the most expensive. So emailing, texting, RVMs can all be automated and put out in a campaign. But you can actually build out a campaign that does all those in one campaign versus just using an email system, just using test system, just using an RVM system. So now you can do an email, text, RVM, and then if they don't respond to any of those, I can put it on my team to do a cold call, because now it's actually taking human man hours. So you can build up that campaign, run thousands of people through the list, and it's just going to go.
Wow. Wow. Now that is some serious automation. That's serious automation. So if you said, so if they don't respond to any of those initial campaigns through the email and text, then it gives your team a notification to call them.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And
Well,
this is
there's a dialer inside of it, so you can literally put it straight into the thing. When it hits this point, assign it to John Smith, who's my cold caller, and he just goes checks his task, and he checks his cold call of who needs a call that day, and then he just hits start and start dialing.
wow. Wow. That is certainly something that would help people to get to that six-figure mark on a monthly basis, because they're not having to do a lot of the, for lack of a better way of saying it, the heavy lifting, especially with having VAs and like you mentioned, all of the delegation that has to go into that. The automation will certainly make it a whole lot easier.
And like
Uh,
each one of those phases, when you pass it on, is opportunity for it to get lost. Like you might totally
Definitely.
forget about that person, and this is one way that you're going to get everybody. You're going to hit everybody in every single way, and then you're not going to have any flex or loss from, or inefficiencies from your whole
Yeah.
campaign.
Now, in that, so for example, let's put it in this situation. If someone replies to a text message that says, "I'm not interested," what would be the next automated thing that happens? I mean, would there be a message that goes to the cold caller, or goes to it, or they just drop off the system? How does that work?
It depends. You can literally create a "I'm not interested" option, where if they say not interested specifically, you can kick it off to your code caller to call.
Okay. 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 Yeah,
So
because
Yeah, it's one of those things where like if they respond in any ways, it can come off the campaign, because if you text them like, "Hey, is this John Smith?" and they reply, "Yeah, I'm looking to, yeah, this is John Smith. How can I help you?" And then you hit them with, we're looking to buy property in the area," or that you might hit them with, "I don't know if we got a hold of you last time," type of question. You don't want to do that. So if they have like a specific outreach campaign, whenever they respond, then it kicks it to another bucket, and then you're actually having a conversation over here, which is maybe if they respond not interested, if they cuts you out, if they say yes in any way, the keyword yes, boom, it kicks it straight to your acquisitions team to actually, hey, we have a hot lead that said yes at this point in the stage.
Got it, got it. And you mentioned that there's an automated part for if they cuss you out as well.
Yeah, you can set up automation when it cuts you out. With wrong numbers, if it's a wrong number, you can set up automation to swap the number out, because usually you have multiple numbers and you have skip trace lists. So you can swap out a number and put in the campaign again. And all this can be automated.
Great stuff. Great stuff. We have a question. Miss Cassiana says, can it work with funnel systems?
So we actually have internal funnel systems. So if you guys are using ClickFunnels in any way, you can actually copy your ClickFunnels website onto our platform for free, as long as it's your funnel.
Okay. Okay.
So we have websites too. So we use our websites for PPC. So it's just a simple website with a form on it. And the reason why we do that is because we don't want people to click down the About Us, the Contact Us page. If we're doing PPC marketing to a lead page, we want them only to have ability to the lead page, and that's it. So we're gonna get more people filling out the form versus clicking around and About Us and Contact Us and picture of your family. I'm like, no, it's only the form. That's it.
Right. You don't want them clicking all over the place.
Yep.
Okay. Great stuff. Cassiana says, "Oh wow, good stuff." And you know, this something like this, it would definitely come in handy for a lot of, you know, new and experienced investors because of the ability to automate that process. And I imagine, you know, you had some success in doing it with your business. So tell me, what is the typical, I guess, automated situation? So you mentioned email. So is it email first, and then text? So imagine your leads are coming in through some type of funnel system or the PPC, as you mentioned. So is there a funnel system that it goes through first that takes it down that road of, you know, the communication, automated communication?
I mean, it depends what type of marketing you're doing. So, like, let's say you do direct mail. There's a lot of investors who do direct mail. What do you put on your direct mail? You put a website and you put a phone number. You can set up phone number tracking, and you can put a website where people can come in when it goes directly to your website. Boom, comes in. If you're doing bandit signs, what do you put on a bandit sign? You put a phone number on it. Call tracking, call forwarding. If somebody calls or texts it in, you can make a specific number for that bandit sign in that specific area. Hey, I know you hit the sign in this area. What type property do you have in Harris County or whatever that city that is? You can specifically target them because you know what campaign they're a part of. So you can really build out a lot of customization based off of what number they're texting, what channel they came in through from. If they hit you from the email channel, okay, well, how many people did we email? What campaign was it? What list was it? So it's a tagging system. So we use this for dispositions. We use this for acquisitions. We use this for a lot of different things. It's just one of those things where it kind of works the way you want it to, and we work it.
Oh, good. And I imagine, you know, somebody will probably want to know, how do I set this up? If I don't have any technical skills, is this something that you set up for me? Or do I have to go through and learn how to do this all myself to be able to make it work the way I need it to work?
So we usually have two different types of clients. So we have clients that are like, I need to learn how to use this tool because I want to be most effective with using it. And then I have other clients like, I just want to use it in this one way. Can you set it up for me? So whenever you get an account created, we already have like the basics set up for you. We ask you to go through the trainings. That way you kind of understand how it works. But like, if you're that person, like, I want to pay you, I don't know anything about technology. Can you do this, this, and this? We'll do it for you. It's not a question of like how to do it. It's like, hey, as long as you have like an SOP process in your mind, hey, normally when I text, I just send out this message. And then if they respond this, I'd like to do this, this, and this. And just kind of have like a wireframe of what you want done and what my team will knock it out for you. And you have the ability to do it yourself, of course. But it's one of those things that's like, there's time and money. You got the time, you got the money. Time to do it yourself or the money to pay somebody else to do it.
Great. Great idea. Great idea. It's great that you mentioned that. That's one of the things that I've mentioned quite a bit. When I talk to people, most people have the idea that you can do real estate with no money and no credit. But you got to have a lot of time.
It took me 7 months to get my first deal. So like, when I was going through the pain, I was like, man, this is terrible. I contracted multiple properties, but they all fell through for different reasons. But like when I finally got my first deal, I'm like, man, this is gonna be a good story.
Right. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So you said it took you 7 months to get your first deal. So when I started studying, I studied for 2 years before I actually attempted to do my first deal. So you were better than me the first time. My first time around. That's because I didn't have a mentor or anything like that. I bought the Carlton Cheese course and I read it for like 2 years before I even, took a stab at it the first time. Do you mind sharing with us what was your process and what were some of the lessons that you learned during that 7-month period?
It was I took a course. So for everybody that wants to get in this game, buy some type of course, minimal course, go watch YouTube, go get educated on the front end before you start putting your foot in your mouth, because it can happen really quick. So get educated a little bit before you jump in. So I took a course. I paid like $250 for it at the time, and I kind of got the education. But for me, it was a necessity. I was already an entrepreneur at that point doing trucking, and I had to pivot. I had to pivot because my trucking company was going through the ringer. I wasn't really making any money, so I had to pivot. So it was like a necessity for me. Where you had like the option of like, nah, let me keep on studying and do this. Me, it was like I have to do something else. Like it was like I'll sit in a wall. So like for me, like I contracted a bunch of houses. I probably contracted 5 properties, all houses, before I did my first deal. My first deal that I actually contracted and closed was a land deal, and never looked back ever since. So I've been doing strictly land after that. I've only done one other house deal, and that was because I moved from Atlanta and I did a lease purchase with my own house that I had bought with my own mortgage. So that's the only other house deal I've ever done, and all the rest is land.
Oh wow! So you primarily just do land.
100% land.
Wow! What are we missing out on? What are we missing out on doing land instead of doing houses?
So land is think about this. Everybody think, oh, there's opportunity houses. Think of how much the United States is land. Like 60% of the United States is land. So think of how much opportunity that is. There's less competition because people don't know what it is.
Absolutely.
Another reason we like it doesn't cash flow. So whereas a house, a seller knows they can list it, they can sell it, they can put on Airbnb, they can rent it out, they can leave it vacant if they want to. They have all these options. With land, they either sell or hold, and that's the only options they have. That's it. And taxes are owed every year, so they're actually negative cash flowing every year. So there's already underlying motivation. Whereas like most people that do houses, they're targeting water shut-off list and vacant list and tired landlord list. We just target land because they're all motivated in some way. They're all motivated in some way. So check this out. And there's no attachment to it too. So most land is owned free. Most land is owned free and clear. So you can get a really good deal. So think about if you ever done a free and clear property, they're really, you can really sometimes get a really good deal on that because they're thinking from 20 years ago what the equity was and how much equity it is now. They might not know what they're talking about. So with land, you can really get a good deal. Really get a good deal. And we can talk about some case studies and stuff like that. But you can really get a good deal, and there's no attachment to it. So like most of the time it's passed down. Grandma had it, passed it down to their kids, and now it's just passed down. They've probably never seen it, never visited it. There's no attachment to it. They just something they inherited that they have to pay a bill for every year. Number 2 is that there's no like verifiable comps. So like whereas there's a 3-2 neighborhood that has 3-2s with 2,500 square feet, there's going to be houses that sold all throughout the neighborhood because there's a verifiable comps. With land, there's not. So it's all subject to what a seller is willing to pay for it or what a buyer is willing to pay for it, and that's 100% leverage. So like we'll get land deals, and we'll oversell the property because we'll own or finance it. So we create the financing, we create the terms, and we'll create the price, so we can create a huge spread. Whereas if your house is, you have to sell it to an investor, so you're losing twice. You have to create profit for the end investor, and you have to create profit for yourself. Whereas if you do land, you can still circulate to retail and collect all the profit. which is why we do bigger spreads. So like all of our deals, we usually average like 50,000 plus on all of our deals, just because we are sending directly to the retail side and we have no buyers. Like, what's your buyers list like? 0. I don't even have a buyers.
So how does one, so what's the benefit? Like, so, you said you don't have a buyers list, there's no comps. So for a person to look at that and be attracted to that, of course, the huge spread. I mean, you named the several benefits, but for me, okay, say I'm a novice and I have no idea what any of that means. What is the thing that attracts me to land over houses? What's the single most important thing that would attract me to it?
Do you have any rentals right now?
Yes.
What's the average rental income you get from a rental?
About $500, $600.
$500-$600. It's
Yeah.
pretty average, right? Check this out. We did a deal. It was about a $35,000 lot about a year ago. Seller came in. Hey, I want $15,000 for my property. Okay, we'll give you 8. We'll give you 8. He's like, no, I need 15. I have to get 15. I'm like, all right. So 90 days passes by. He comes back. Hey, are you still interested in my property? Like, yeah, of course. What you got? He's like, I got this property. I want 15 for it. I'm like, hey, I remember you. We told you 8. He's like, you can't do any better? No, 8. He's like, all right. So we contracted it for 8. Check this out. With land, you can contract for 90 days. That's not unheard of. So you get longer stretch periods. So 90 days. What do? We put it on Facebook Marketplace for $8,000 down, $500 a month for 5 years. We found a buyer in a week. We sold it for $40,000, $8,000 down, went straight to the seller, and we collected $500 a month for 5 years on a deal we put no money into.
Wow.
How many $35,000 lots are out there?
True.
Infinite.
True. Right.
So
right.
Once we learned the power of owner financing and creating spreads, now we're just doing this with larger properties. We're trying to buy 50 acres or more, owner finance it out, and make 5, 10, 15,000 a month on single transactions.
True. Okay. I see where you're going. So how do you mentioned that there is no verifiable comps. So how do I know what the land is worth? I mean, I got an acre of land. It's in, I don't know, near, we'll say near a major metropolitan city. How do I evaluate that if there's only 2 or 3 lots available?
So the truth of the answer is there's going to be a lot more than that. There's a lot of, I mean, think about this. On the commute to your favorite restaurant, how many vacant lots do you see? A lot.
True.
There's a lot more vacant land than you realize it because you're not really paying attention for it. But when you actually, like everybody, once you hear this conversation, you're going to see every vacant lot to the grocery store. You're like, just because you heard this conversation today.
Right.
That's the funny part about this. So you're going to realize how much of really vacant land there is out there. And vacant land is subjective. Check this out.
True.
So if in the city, there's what you call info lots, where it might be a business, a vacant lot, a restaurant, and something like that. So that's an info lot, right? The info lot is going to change in value based on the population and the car count. So if that area is popping more and more, this year it might be 100. 2 years from now, it might be worth 3. It might be worth 4. So as the population grows, guess what? It expands into more land. So the trick is if you find your sweet spot, you just kind of move as the population grows, and there's always more opportunity as the population grows in certain areas, because it always stretches out into more land.
Got it. Okay.
So there's a couple varying factors. So like info lots, if you're selling to builders, we have clients that sell to builders. They do 10 to 15 deals a month. They look for info lots in Florida because Florida's already cut up into small, like 1,500, 2,000 square foot lots, maybe 10,000 square foot lots, and they'll come in, buy them. They already have a buyer that's going to buy 10 lots this month, and they'll have another buyer that's buying 5 lots this month. Guess what? They buy it both at 40,000. So what they do is they reverse wholesale. If they know their buyer's going to buy this lot at 40,000, I'm going to contact every seller that has this type of lot and offer them 25. And if they take 30, I'm going to make 10,000 per hit. Boom, 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 boom. And they already have a buyer lined up. Hey, I got another one. Boom. Imagine if you already knew the price you're going to wholesale it at, and you're just doing marketing. So I have clients that do this in Florida, doing 10 to 20 deals a month. Crazy.
Wow. So why are we doing houses?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. As you can see, I don't do that.
Right. So now, and how long have you been doing the land? I don't think we asked you about
I've
that.
been doing land for 4 years.
Okay. And so you said that's your one house, the house that you did that was your personal residence was the only house that you ever did, right? So with that in mind, now are you doing lots in different areas of the country, or are you focused on a specific area?
So our niche specifically is what we try and do is we're doing 50 acres or more all over Texas. We'll look at 50 acres or more nationwide. It's just our sweet spot's Texas. We got buyers, we got private capital, we got title companies. We have all these relationships here in Texas, so we can do anything in Texas, 50 acres or more. But we're looking. People are throwing us deals in Oklahoma, Florida, all over the place. North Carolina. We're getting deals thrown at us from other markets, so we're looking at them. But our sweet spot's definitely Texas.
Great stuff. So again, one of the questions that I want to make sure that I cover, because I'm just thinking of what some of the more inexperienced investors might ask. If you were given a property, so you're primarily in Texas. So say if you got a house here in Atlanta that had an old house on it that needed to be torn down to be able to clear the lot. Is that something that you look at? One, two, if it is, how do you look at the cost versus the cost of tearing that property down if you were to, take on something like that versus what you could potentially make on selling that lot?
There's a lot of we don't really do that because, like I said, we do 50 acres or more. Like literally, we're looking at 100,000 plus land tracts. We don't like anything under that. There's like different sub niches in real estate and land, as you know. Like if you get into houses, you're doing Airbnbs, you might do rentals, you might do short-term rentals, you might do the BRRRR strategy. With land, there's sub niches too. So that might be like a sub niche. So there was a video I saw recently on TikTok, and it was like out of like Seattle or like Silicon Valley, and they showed this house like in 2008. It was just like a regular house. Somebody came in, tore it down, built like a modern home, and it was a lot bigger. And then literally 5 years later, somebody came in and tore it down again and built like a mansion because
Wow.
the area have went up in value that much that it was worth it to tear it down and build up a mansion again because it was probably worth a $2 million house at that point. So the value's in the land. So as the population, I mean, I've seen this in Florida too. We did an event in Florida end of August. And Florida, if you've ever been to Miami, there's little rivers that cut to the ocean, and there's houses right on the corners with yachts parked right on front. If you ever see them, sometimes they're tearing down those houses, the older houses, maybe 20 years old, 10 years old, and putting like mini mansions because they can afford to. It's location. It's very, very important, especially for stuff like that. So like they'll come in and build a mini mansion, park their yacht out front, and now they got a brand new modern built this year or whatever to their specifications with a yacht out front. And it's all about that corner lot being specific location. So like when it comes to land, it's just one of those things where like if a buyer wants it because they might like that location. They might want a pond to throw fish in it to go fishing all the time on their land. They might want acreage to shoot on their land. They might want to do recreational stuff. So the one thing about our buyers is they're people that buy land, there's no utility with it. So they're usually ready to spend money. Right. Whereas houses, it's a necessity. They might rent it. They might looking for cash flow. Like who else buys land? People that can afford to.
True, absolutely. And I guess, just thinking of the question that will potentially be asked in a situation like that, the short answer is, why tear down a house? There's plenty of land. There were no houses on.
Right. And that's why like half-burned houses, they just let them sit because there's no, like whoever buys that property has to get a really good deal because they already got paid out by the insurance, by the fire damage, and they have to come in and clean it all out. So they're actually spending money. So they have to get that deal almost free, which is like people that buy burn properties are like, I'll give you 10 grand for that lot because I still have to come in, tear down half the house, remediate it all, and build it back up again.
Absolutely. Good stuff. So the average lot size. Now you're saying 10,000 acres. Now we're saying 50,000 acres, right? And this is just in Texas that you're looking at.
50 acres or more. 50
acres or more. Okay. So it's nothing. So you're not looking to sell, a wholesale land or lots that are just for single houses. You're looking for like subdivision type projects. Is that correct?
We're not even doing subdivisions. So our whole strategy is to sell ranchettes. What the ranchette is 10 acres or more. So if you do subdivision, it's a lot more of a process. You have to bring in roads, you have to bring in utilities, you have to bring in shovels. We're just flipping paper. We're flipping paper. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to develop this land. I'm like, why? It's going to take 9 to 12 months. You know what's going to happen in 9 to 12 months? I don't know.
Right.
I don't want to be that long.
What happens in you know, we're in a recession and we're in a crash. And I say that facetiously because, you know, so many people are, you know, hands up in the air about stuff like that. If people knew anything about the crash of 2008, they would clearly know that we're not anywhere near that now. So I'm joking in that way. But in the sense of something like that, how does lots and land, or how are they affected in a recession or a crash? Are they affected in any way than, you know, buying and selling?
So I will 100%. I don't know because I've only been in this 4 years. I mean, I was 16 when 2008 happened. You know, like I wasn't even looking at real estate. I was looking at girls. You know,
right?
So
at least you're honest. At least you're honest.
I mean, it was one of the I didn't know about this back then. So what I've heard is that land is it doesn't flex at all from the recession type thing because all our buyers are coming in cash. And if we're offering financing, they're still going to have cash to buy land. So like one of our buyers, he actually buys in mobile homes. So like for him, he's a mobile home niche. So he'll buy land from us, put mobile homes on it, and sell it again. So that's his whole niche. So we're working with people that actually have capital that do business in the land business to make profit or for leisure. So they have capital.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So and just, you know, and for the people that are sitting way in the back, we want to make sure we're clear of the air on that. People that are primarily investing in land are ones that have the capital to do it, right? And looking at the overall, you know, I mean, you got to be liquid in some way or another to be able to do that and look at the long-term benefits of purchasing the land. You know, from the person the person that's actually investing in it. But from a wholesale perspective, you just have to have these people in mind when you're marketing these types of projects. So
a lot of people like projecting. A lot of people like projecting their own insecurities on their sellers, which you got to think about that. Like, oh, who would buy this? I'm like, there's people out there that buy boats. What do people do with boats? They leave it in the slip for 6 months and go out once a month.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can't project your own insecurities of what people would do.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. You know, people buy rocks as pets. So, I mean, come on. So you can't limit what someone is willing to invest in as long as it benefits them in a way or another. So absolutely, I totally agree with that. So, and I think you may have answered this question, but I want to just circle back to get an idea. You said you drove trucks previously, right? Now, of course, you have this huge data company. Why land? You may have answered that question, but I want to make sure I'm clear. Why did you get into wholesaling? I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Wholesaling lots and land. Why did you decide to do that?
It was me and my partner, we both kind of fell into it. We didn't know this niche was out there till we kind of fell into land deals. And the crazy thing about this, if you talk to like any experienced real estate investor, they've done at least one land deal. And I've had this conversation multiple times with multiple different people. Like, oh yeah, I've done a land deal. It was like the biggest check I've ever made. And I'm like, okay. And like it doesn't click with them. And then like we'll talk to businesses that I did an interview. I'm not gonna put his name out here, but I did an interview, and they're like they're doing the podcast, big office behind them. They got 30, 40 employees. They do 200 transactions a month. And they're like, so like, how many transactions do you guys do? And I'm like, we're trying to do like maybe 5 to 10 a year. And he's like, and he got like the stink face at me. And I looked at him and I'm like we're trying, like our goal next year is to do 10 $1 million deals. 10.
Yeah.
It.
Yeah.
So most people are like, most people, it's like a competition. I do 10 deals a month. I do 20 deals a month. I
Right.
have 300 doors. But what's the cash flow look like? So for us, it's like, it's not even a competition of like how many deals per month you do or how many transactions you do. I'm trying to do bigger and larger deals. I'm trying to create more cash flow than you and all your doors have in one transaction, where it took years to compile. And we're trying to do this all with doing 10 deals a year. Like we're trying to be more effective than proficient.
Right. Yeah. The quality over quantity type of situation. If you do 10, you probably make as much as those guys that do 20 deals a month. Listen, I get it. I'm slam dunking my way out of this thing.
And it's crazy because like every time I look at like big operations, I'm like, his churn's got to be crazy. His rental income's got to be crazy for that office. Like your overhead's insane because you have all these employees. And I'm like, I'm trying to stay lean and we're trying to maximize profits. And like one of the big things, like you always hear about, like, how do you, the average wholesale spread is like 17 grand as of like a few months ago. So like if you're trying to make larger spreads, you target more expensive property. That's it. It's just zeros. It's the same process you do the small transaction. So like I have clients that do all these info lots, and I'm like, I'm happy for you. Like I'm happy for them that they're doing all those transactions, but I'm like, you can be more effective.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, if you don't have to do it now, this is an ironic situation, though. I have to say, Daniel, because you are the person that has the CRM for the guy that's doing the 20 deals a month, but you only do land. You only do 1 or 2 deals.
You still use the CRM. See, the thing about this is that the CRM amplifies what you can do. So like if I can do one deal a year on Google Voice and paper, all for you, man. It's all for you, but I can still amplify and do more transactions and be more efficient no matter what I'm doing as a whole. Because we still do a lot of texting. A lot of my outreach that we use our system for is for selling our deals. And who do we text? We text agents because agents have buyers. So if you text enough agents, somebody's going to have a buyer for you, and they're happy to make the C word, the commission. So
Absolutely.
we just key in on that. Hey, we'll pay your commission if you just bring a buyer, and like, oh yes, I have a buyer. We're gonna go view it tomorrow, and they're just doing backflips and stuff like that for 3%. I'm like, okay,
right. So is it true that they can make up to 10%?
They can. It depends on the lot. So usually when it comes to like smaller lots, they usually ask for 10% because there's no value in it. Funny story, my first deal that I did, the agent, I sold it on Marketplace in 2 days, and the buyer, I negotiated everything. I sent the buyer the contract, and the buyer had called an agent to represent him. And the agent called me, and I'm like, I got to work with an agent. I don't even want to pay commissions. And I was laughing because I sold this lot for $12,000. Agent called me, and she's like, "Would you pay commissions?" And I'm like, "You know what? What's 3% of 12 grand? You know what? I'll pay commissions. I'll pay commissions. You know what? You can have your $300."
Yeah, $360, something like that. Yeah.
And then she was like, "Can you pay 500?" And I'm like, "As long as you get the transaction done, I will pay your $500. Just make sure the transaction flows smoothly." She's like, "Thank you so much." And I'm like,
yeah.
So usually when it comes to bigger lots, they're usually taking the 3% commission because it's a lot more. It's like a regular house. You're dealing with 200,000 or more properties, so they're making a regular commission. When it comes to smaller lots, you're usually asking for more because, like, and this is where it comes down to people that do smaller lots. If you're doing a lot for $1,000, it's not even worth doing title because you might spend more on title than actually purchasing of the land.
Yeah.
So there's people out there that will teach you how to do your own title search to self-close that deal, because if you do 1,000 of those over your lifetime, that might save you $100,000 or $1 million.
Good stuff. So now that you mentioned title search, now do you find and what so in my experience, I'll be honest, in 24 plus years, I probably have done 3 land deals, and I want to say 2.5 out of those the average of those 3, 2.5, I had title issues. where it was, handed down through the family, and we had like 10 people that had to sign off on it and all these other things. I think one was actual probate situation. Have you run into anything like that, or what is the kind of the worst situation you've had with dealing with these types of deals?
That's in Texas. If you have that problem, anybody listening, you can contact us. We'll actually deal with that. We bought parcels of property. That's like our specialty in Texas. We're there to solve problems. So the bigger problems you solve, the more you get paid. So like
Absolutely.
those issues that come up, we're ready for them because we're in this niche. They come up all the time. So we're ready to deal with airships. We're ready to deal with partial interest. We're ready to do a partition sale and sue the brother doesn't want to sign because he's not getting his portion. So like it doesn't really matter as long as somebody wants to sell the property that's inherited the property. We're willing to buy that 20% of the property.
Okay.
And go down that road.
So you haven't had one of those situations where they're fighting and
we've done a bunch of them. We've done deals of prison.
Oh wow, okay.
We worked with the seller out of prison before, so we've done a lot of crazy stuff like that in Texas.
Wow.
So like that's stuff we have to deal with. It's one of the things that if it comes across, we're ready for it.
Great stuff. Let's say if it's got to be a big deal, it's got to be in Texas. They say do it big in Texas.
Yeah.
All right. What is the and I wanted to get more, like kind of like this process of what you've seen in some of the titles. So you said there's people that teach you how to do the title search. Like, have you had a scenario where there was 10 or more siblings or 10 or more people involved in the transaction?
My partner does a lot of that stuff. I think we did one with 8 heirs. We did one with one out of the country where we had to send them to a embassy in another country to do a notary. We've done stuff. We've done a lot of crazy stuff like that. We had a lady deed us over a property just so we can sell it because she lived in China. She was a teacher in China.
Wow.
And she literally deeded over the property to us, and we sold it on the MLS and paid her out her fee because she didn't want to deal with it virtually.
So in that situation, I mean, she just trusted you to give her the money, or did you all have some type of agreement that would pay her back or something like that?
She trusts us to give us the money. So that's the crazy thing about land. Some people will just give it to you.
Right.
When you talk to people, some people just give it to you. One of my clients did a deal the other day. They're like, "Hey, you can have it if you pay the taxes off." The tax was like $2,000. They signed it over, and I think my client ended up giving her like $500. It's like, I have to give you something for it, so he gave her like $500, paid the taxes, got a property for $2,500.
Wow. And I could see how something like that would be. As you mentioned earlier, there is no cash flow to it, and you're having to pay the taxes on these things, and sometimes people just tap out. They don't have a plan for it, so eventually those taxes become overwhelming, and maybe they don't have a set of heirs to pass it on to, or maybe they don't care to pass it on to the heirs. So I can see that being a situation where they just give it up, and not have to pay the taxes on it. Have you seen that quite a bit?
It happens a lot. I mean, the people target that tax list as their list in general. So one of the benefits about the tax list is, for everybody listening, no matter what list you're targeting, the tax list is a huge list. It already has underlying motivation. The reason why is because if it's on the tax list, if it's a house, guess what? There's no mortgage, because a mortgage is always going to make sure the taxes are paid. So if it's a house, it's free and clear. If it's land, it might be minimal taxes on that property, but it might be worth a lot. So a lot of the tax assessed value are usually way behind what it's actually worth. So we use that as like a negotiating tactic sometimes to get into properties where, like, hey, tax value says is that where we're at? And knowing it's worth maybe 1.5% or 150 or 200% what its actually tax value is. So we use it like an anchor. And most sellers come to us, yeah, I just want the tax value for it because they think that's what it's worth. I'm like, all right, perfect.
Good stuff. All right. So how do you what's the process that you go by to generate leads for these types of projects, for these types of deals for the land?
So we do a lot of texting, which is through our software. We do PPC through our software, and we do oh, look, You got some good comments.
What in the world is that? Okay.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. They're blowing up the chat.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So we got to get rid of that. I don't know what that was.
we do texting, we do PPC, and we do referrals. One of the big things about being online is if you talk loud enough, people will send you just deals for free. So we tell all of our people that want to do land, just like tell everybody you do land, just because it's so niche. People, whenever somebody comes across this, they're just going to call you. And there's so much opportunity out there that you just say, I do land, I do land, I do land. And then specifically, if you want to be specific about it, I do certain type of land, I do info lots, I do large acreage, I do this. That way, everybody, whenever thinks land, oh, I know that guy, and me and Anthony been going on the land proclamation for a while. So people just DM us deals all day long. So we're getting a lot of referrals.
Oh wow! So what is the lead conveyor belt?
The lead conveyor belt is where you put your leads to the cheapest form of process first down the line. So email, texting, RVM, cold call, because that takes physical man hours and physical time. And then you might do direct mail, you might do door knocking or something behind that just to physically talk to that person. So like you can be so niche targeted with your list that like I'm going to talk to this person no matter what it takes. And you can be 100% direct with that, where you're going to target specifically to target that person 100%.
Got it. So with all of that, you still are only looking to potentially do 10 deals on an annual basis.
Yeah, we just said 10 deals, but I think we have like we have about $5 million in the contract right now of land.
Wow. Okay. So is there a number that you'd hit that you'll take the rest of the year off?
No. I mean, we're getting so many leads thrown at us, or like we're just gonna keep doing this. Like 10 is just the goal, but it's one of those things where like if like we just bought 123 acres in Commerce for 175,000. We're listed it for 6. We just contracted 211 acres and 54 acres in Pleasanton, Texas, and then we got a 2-acre lot in Natalia for 50,000 that we're selling for 140.
Wow. Right. So I mean, you'll hit your goal pretty easily, and then continue to do more after that.
Like, if you, it's just like working out. If you work out that one muscle, you do curls, your biceps are going to be huge. So like we're looking at big land deals because we're going to be the best at it, and we're just looking at them all the time. So if you got any big land deals, you can submit it to submitbigland.com, and we'll look at them.
Good stuff. So what now you said you tell people that you do land, right? So that's most of the things that you promote. So of course that's the thing that you promote amongst people. So I imagine in your networking, that's the conversation. Why is networking important, and how does that help with doing the deals that you do?
Most people that we literally we talked to Ty Flipman last week.
Okay.
And we interviewed him, and it was the funniest conversation. He's like, "You guys do land?" And like, "Yeah, I have so many land leads, I don't even know what to do with. You want to JV them?" Yeah, okay. So we literally we interviewed him on our podcast last Thursday. We just contracted a deal with him a week later because he already had the leads in his inbox.
Great stuff.
So we're looking to make like $50,000 on a deal he already had in his lead pipeline that he just didn't touch because he didn't know what to do with it, and we're looking to make $50,000 on it already.
Wow. And that's
everybody has leads in their pipeline that they just come across. If they're doing consistent marketing, they just have leads they haven't touched for whatever reason.
Definitely. And you're absolutely right about that. And I want to make sure folks are clear on that. If you are doing consistent marketing, I mean, just like you said, if you're doing consistent marketing, there should be leads that either A, you haven't figured out what to do with them yet, or there's some necessary follow-up that needs to happen with them, or C, or simply, you haven't, again, networked with the right people to be able to get them to fit their specific niche. So absolutely, I agree with you 100%. So
that's the purpose of networking. You tell enough people about it, people think of you first.
True story. All right, so we're coming up on our time, but I want to ask, what is the worst experience you had in your multi-million-dollar 4-year run that you've been on in real estate?
I've had a few, and I talked about this recently. This is when I had two big like slaps in the face before I got my first deal, and I like bringing up the story because like this is a like crazy story. So my first one is I found a seller. He was under pre-foreclosure. He had family living in his property, but he didn't want to deal with them because they were family. Like he knew them, but they stopped paying his rent, so he stopped paying the mortgage. Pre-foreclosure hit, and he's just stressed out. So I was like, let me work from it because I don't know you, I don't know him. Let me just work at my side. So I talked to the family. They didn't want to move out, so I'm like, hey, I have to evict them. You signed this paperwork saying I'm gonna evict them. All right. So I went to the courts, filed an eviction with my own cash. I've never done an eviction to this day. That was my first eviction I ever did. Never did real estate before. Done the whole process of eviction through the fire. Evicted his family. I trashed it out because, of course, when you evict somebody, they don't actually leave it clean. So I got my buddy. We trashed it out. We filled the whole dumpster full of their stuff. Trashed it out, cleaned it out. Took it to the closing table because, mind you, I was still under contract at this time because I had a buyer, but the buyer wanted it trashed out. So took it to closing. Go to the closing table, and the closing attorney is like, there is a $30,000 credit card lien that we can't release.
Wow.
Blew up the deal right on the table.
Wow.
And, I was depressed. I was gonna make like 20,000 on that one, and it just fell. I thought I was gonna go to title and walk home with a check, and I went to title and went home with nothing.
So that wasn't something that came up in title before you got to the closing table?
They never. So this title company never ran the title search because I guess they work with a lot of bad wholesalers. So they actually title search till you're ready to close. So they literally ran title that morning. I did all this work for weeks, and they foiled right in front of me.
Wow. Yeah, that's not good. So could you have? I mean, in a scenario like that, what I would have attempted to do was maybe have the buyer finance my fee over time. Like, yeah, wait, maybe you don't pay me now, but put me on the end of the deal when you sell it. Maybe I'll make a little bit there. But they still would have had to cover your 20,000 plus an additional 10. So that might have worked out. And they
did a lot of repairs too, because those left in disrepair. So like it totally blew up the numbers of the repair because I never did a subject to deal, but that was supposed to be a subject to wholesale. So there wasn't enough spread on that deal as a whole to finish it out. And I have another crazy one too. I found this once I found out about real estate. They look for vacant properties.
Where?
Like they're like look for vacant properties, and that's money there. So there was a house I passed on my way to and from work. I saw it twice a day for 2 years. And then I learned about real estate. I'm like, okay, there's this house that I've been driving by for the past 2 years that I can contract. So the guy ended up living like 20 minutes south of me, which is like country. So I ended up pulling at his house, and there was like a bunch of like, it looked like not wholesome folks on the porch, and drug dealers. It looked like a crack house. I went in, and there was a single man, and the grandchildren were taking advantage of the grandfather because he had a house. So they're running stuff through the house because he was old. He was elderly. They're pretty much taking advantage. So he's like, "Oh, I want to show you the house." So he's like, "Can you meet me there tomorrow?" So mind you, this guy's like 85. He almost falls down the steps because it's full of debris and trash.
My goodness!
A family member lived on the property and trashed it. They just trashed like the outside in the garage. I get inside the house. He couldn't find a key because he hasn't been there in like 20 years. He's like, is it okay if I break in? So I break into the property, and inside is immaculate. It's a 110-year-old house, 5-bedroom, 5-bath with like 7 fireplaces. It's like an old home in Georgia, like old. And I ended up contracting it. He wanted $100,000 for it. I knew it was worth about $330. So I'm like, I'm gonna make a killing on this deal. on the buyer lowballed me. I'm like, this is still my first deal. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take whatever they get because I'm not beggars can't be choosers. I need this money right now, whatever it is. So I had a buyer come in at 125 to buy this property, and literally we're supposed to close on a Monday. The seller passed away on a Friday from a stroke.
Wow. Wow. And I guess it wasn't handed down to anyone, right?
I mean, it was one of those things where like we're definitely not closing because now it's through probate and all this stuff. And like, when's a good time to contact them? Because I don't want to be an like, hey, I was about to buy this property, but your grandfather died or your father died. Like I don't know when to have the conversation. So I'm like, let me just file a memo on this property and then it'll come back to me, is what I thought.
Yeah.
So I waited for it to come back. Ended up somebody closed on it like a year and a half later around my memo. And
wow.
they sold it for $100,000. And this is like peak COVID, where it was like a huge run. Where back then it was about 350, that house probably worth like 450, easily, maybe even 5, because it was like almost 4,000 square feet. It was a mansion, like a mini mansion, 100-year-old mini mansion.
That's something else, man. I know that had to burn.
I have burned twice.
Well, I would have said, listen, somebody's got to pay for Grandpa's funeral, so let me do it. Just give me the house.
I didn't have any money, and like I was broke back then, and it was one of those things like I didn't even know what to do. Like, what do you do? What do you do for mentors? And I didn't really have any mentors.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, that was one of those situations where you had to figure out what to do. Go back over there. That is something else. Yeah, I forgot my son was getting out of school early. Wow. So now that you've had the experience that you've had in doing what you're doing, I mean, I can see, where, and these are the types of things that, we talk about on the show, real life real estate investing, where people have these experience, and then we talk about the solutions to those types of scenarios that they come up with. Because, oftentimes people get into the business of real estate and they miss that there are going to be, it's inevitable in what we do because there's so many moving parts. There are going to be some issues that you run into, right? But it's not what happens to you, because what happens to us all. It's how you respond to those things that happen to you. And, I see that what you've done is that you've turned those experiences into a greater testimony, I guess we'll call it, with the experience that you now have in land. What would you say to the, aspiring investors, someone that's coming along, either to get into the business of real estate or to get into the real estate by purchasing or selling lots and things like that? What would be your advice to a person that's trying to get into the business?
Just be consistent. I know there's probably going to be a lot of wholesalers not going to be here in the near future just because they're not continue to stay in it. I got hit in the face a few times, and I'm still here because I had no other choice and opportunity to. It's one of those things where, like, when you're backed up against the wall, you either die or you don't.
True story.
And it's one of those things where, like, and this is the crazy thing about entrepreneurship is, like, what separates everybody else from entrepreneurs is they start. What separates people that start to everybody else after that point is they're consistent and they keep moving forward no matter what happens. And I always I made a tweet about this a couple weeks ago, but it was like, if you survive long enough in entrepreneurship, you'll get to where you want to go.
Yes. And the only thing I'll add to that, Daniel, honestly, is that what you said is the consistency part, and knowing that if you already expect that there's going to be something that could potentially happen. I always say, expect great things to happen. Because what you put into the atmosphere is usually what comes back to you, right? Expect great things to happen, but don't be taken aback if great things don't always happen, right?
When you want it to.
Exactly. Yeah.
The overnight success usually looks like 5 to 10 years.
Right. Right. Yeah. And depends on, even the experiences along the way. Someone's level of, quote unquote success might not be the same as the next person. You know,
Yeah,
the success is the experience, and how I look at it. It's not always just the money, or, you know, I believe the experience and what you obtain over the time that you've been involved in something. I mean, like you said, you've only been doing this for 4 years, but look what you've accomplished, right? That would be considered a level of success. Now, someone else may say, you know, like the gentleman that you know says that he does 20 or 30 deals a month. You only do 10 a year. Who's successful? Right?
all matter of perspective.
Absolutely, absolutely. But listen, I want to thank you for definitely, you know, spending the time with us today. You gave us some very, very valuable information, and I'd like to invite you back on, you know, just to share with us some more insight on, you know, some of your experiences now throughout the you know, what you're doing with lots and land like that, because I know some people are going to want to learn more about that. In the meantime, how do people get in contact with you if there's questions, or if, you know, maybe someone wants to learn from you how to get involved in doing lots?
So we do a lot. If you can't find us, you're not looking hard enough. We're at Hivemind CRM on every platform. We have our own podcast with 240 episodes called the Hive With Us Podcast Network. We do, if you want to learn more about big land deals, we have a land mastermind. You actually text land to 210-972-1842. If you want to learn how to make 6 figures on one land deal, just text course. So we provide a lot of content and a lot of information out there as a whole. We just hit 1,000 videos on YouTube yesterday. So if that's not enough to get your taste buds, let me know. We're making more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as far as the CRM, you know, with Hivemind, is that now? So Hivemind is hivemind.com, I imagine.
HivemindCRM.io.
Okay, that's right. I did have that in my notes. But I'll make sure we have that, you know, and, you know, when we post everything, so people can get in contact with you that way as well. Any parting words you want to share with the audience before we get off?
I mean, I got a few. I mean, there's on my show, I always like, what's a quote that's yours or somebody else's that you resonate with? And I got a few of those. So it's you build your infamy off the content you produce, and I've just seen it happen. Like if you want to make a difference, just start producing content, bad or good. It'll get better over time. Just produce. And then the other one is you only have one name. Treat it accordingly.
Absolutely, man. That's worth the show right there, worth the content of the show, you know, for people to understand that you only have one name, treat it accordingly. Now, I always tell people that come on my show, Dan, or people that I talk to, the first time I use your quote, I give you credit for it. The second time is mine.
I have another good one. This is what my partner said yesterday. He says, you either succeed or you have excuses. You can't have both.
Absolutely. Real talk. You can't take excuses to the bank, is what they tell me.
There you go.
All right. Thank you again. Thank you for joining us today. I certainly appreciate you taking the time, and certainly appreciate you sharing the great information that you shared today, in spite of those additional comments that we had. I don't know where those came from.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right. So you didn't see it. I didn't see it.
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the skip trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.1listguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.
All right, Daniel, thanks again for being on the show. Folks, this has been the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show, where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you real soon.